Good day, everyone. Today, our group will be talking about the essay type. You may have encountered this type of tests from your previous and ongoing subjects, and probably may have been so confident in taking each of them. But have you ever experienced failing getting the perfect score that you expected from an essay type test? That you just started thinking or wondering why? What went wrong? Or what were the bases of it? What were the bases of it? As a future educator, that is the question. And to answer that question, our group will discuss the definition of an essay type, the background of an effective essay questions, the types, and the rules of creating essay questions. So, as for its definition, essay is commonly defined as an objective test. It is intended to measure the student's higher level learning, and its output is graded according to its comprehensive composition and also according to the objective of the question. Therefore, you can say that essay is not purely subjective, for it also accounts the specific goal of the question. And as the answer of the previous question, this is where some students fail.
Essay questions can be used to measure attainment of a variety of objectives. Stakeland has listed 14 types of abilities that can be measured by essay items. Number 1. Comparison between two or more things. This type of abilities which analyze two subjects by comparing them. To focus on comparison, choose two subjects that seem at first to be unrelated. For example, by comparing how apples and orange are quite similar. The more divergent the two subjects initially seem, the more interesting a comparison essay will be. Second, the development and defense of an opinion. This type of abilities which requires your opinion on a topic. You will give arguments, reasons, viewpoints on the topic and will be supported by evidence or examples. Third, questions of cause and effect. This type of abilities is meant to explain and analyze why something happened or how something occurred, and shows how two or more events are connected. For example, what is the effect on learning when students do most of their work reading from a computer or tablet than paper and books? Fourth, explanations of meanings. This type of abilities introduce the term, concept, or idea being defined, presents clear and specific information about the term, and uses example to clarify it. For example, Beliefs About Families by Mary Pfeffer that defines several things about families. 5. Summarizing of information in a designated area. These types of abilities which summarizing an original articles to quickly give the reader an idea of what article is saying.
Now, to continue the discussion about the 14 types of abilities that can be measured by essay items, we move on to number 6. Analysis. Now, essay items can measure a learner's ability to analyze. In analysis, the learner will exhibit how he or she will break a complex topic into bits of information and create a meaningful idea. Next is the knowledge of relationships. Now, the role of the 7th type is to measure a learner's ability to be able to think more about the topic, relate other things, and make use of existing knowledge to supplement an essay. Illustration of rules, principles, procedures, and application. This way of measurement is not just for learners, but to educators as well, because to avoid errors, better understanding and analysis of the students, instructors has to be able to illustrate mainly his instructions and his rules, which will be discussed later. And when the illustration is nicely executed, learners will be able to apply what he or she learned to the essay easily and make a new schema. And of course, criticisms of the adequacy, relevance, or correctness of a concept, ideas, and information. Again, it's up to the learner and the teacher to measure and critique the correctness and the accuracy of the essay item.
Hi! Earlier, Kay and Ivan tells you the first 1 to 10 abilities that can be measured by essay item. And now, I'll tell you the others 11 to 14 types of abilities. Number 11. Formulation of new questions and problems. To regard old problems from a new angle requires creative imagination and marks real advances in essay. Basically, you ask yourself what else you must know in order to understand the matter under consideration. 12. Reorganization of facts. 13. Discrimination between objects, concepts, or events. Or in other words, concept formations. 14. Inferential thinking. Inferential thinking comprehension is the ability to process written information and understand the underlying meaning of the text. This information is then used to infer or determine deeper meaning that is not explicitly stated. Inferential comprehension requires readers to combine ideas, draw conclusions. And that's the 14 types of abilities that can be measured by essay items.
Now, let's move on to the rules of thumb which facilitate the scoring of essays. Unlike objective test items that are ideally suited for testing students' broad knowledge in a relatively short amount of time, essay questions are best suited for testing higher level learning. By nature, they require longer time for students to think, organize, and compose their answers.
Pero saan nga ba nanggagaling ang isinasagot natin sa essay exams? Of course, it came from or based from our knowledge or understanding of the subject or the topic. Now, kung ang sagot natin sa essay exams natin ay based from our knowledge or understanding sa topic, paano o ano ang nagiging batayan ng mga teachers sa pagbibigay nila ng scores? May rules ba silang sinusundan? Yes, meron po. Ngayon ang tanong, bakit kailangan pang may rules? Ano ang kahalagahan nito? Essay exams are prone to prejudices. That is why we have the 7 rules of thumb which helps us facilitate the scoring of essay. That way, the appropriate and accurate scores will be given accordingly.
Rule number 1. Phrase the direction in such a way that students are guided on the key concepts to be included. For example, write an essay on the topic plant photosynthesis using the following keywords and phrases: chlorophyll, sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, oxygen, byproduct, and stomata. So as you can see, nagbigay yung teacher ng keywords para i-guide yung students kung ano ba yung hinahanap niya sa essay examination. And now that the students are properly guided in making their essays, let's now look at this given example. Let's assume that it was written by a student. What do you think the score it will get? Will it get a perfect score? Or 9? 8? Or 0? Okay, so the score that it will get is 0. Why? it was clear in the direction that there are keywords that the teacher are looking for, and even at least one keyword or any word with relation to these keywords are not found in the essay. That's all for rule number 1. I hope it was clear to you. Now, let's move on to the rule number 2. Rule number 2. Inform the students on the criteria to be used for grading their essays. This rule allows the students to focus on relevant and substantive materials rather than on peripherals and unnecessary facts and bits of information. Informing the students on the criteria to be used for grading their essay is important, as it will guide them on what should be on their essays to meet their teacher's standard. Now, the following criteria will be the basis and guide of the teacher as well in scoring the student's essay.
Rule number 3. Put a time limit on the essay test. In timed writing, teachers can measure the students' raw writing ability and their skills in thinking under pressure. But there are advantages and disadvantages when you put a time limit on the essay test. For the advantages, it will help your students to enhance their ability to think fast and to prioritize tasks. But timed writing can create stress to the students. Why? Kasi sa halip na sila ay mag-focus o mag-concentrate sa pagsusulat ng kanilang mga essay, ang nangyayari ay nakatuon na lamang ang kanilang mga kaisipan kung ilang oras na lamang ba ang nalalabi para sila ay makapagsulat. Ang nangyayari tuloy, hindi nagiging maganda ang kinalalabasan ng kanilang mga naisusulat. Ang nangyayari, sinulat na lamang nila iyon for the sake of may mapasa na lang. Rule number 4. Decide on your essay grading system prior to getting the essays of your students. You have to prepare an essay rubrics in advance. Determine what you are looking for and how many points will you be assigning for each criteria. Through the use of rubrics, teachers can assess their essay writing by using specific criteria to grade their essay.
There are many variations of rubrics, but analytic and holistic rubrics are widely used in teaching.
So now, let us proceed to the next rule. The 5th rule is, evaluate all of the student answer to one question before proceeding to the next question. The teacher should evaluate the answer of the students to one question in order for him or her to know if the student learned from a certain topic. The teacher should look at the ideas of the student on a certain question, and also the teacher should ensure that his or her students be knowledgeable and do not have any confusion on the topic before proceeding to the next question. The 6th rule is, evaluate the answer to essay question without knowing the identity of the writer. When evaluating the student's answer to an essay question, there is no need to know the identity of the writer in order to have fairness in giving judgment or scores to an essay. Lastly, the 7th rule is, whenever possible, have 2 or more persons grade each answer. It is also better to have 2 persons to give judgment to an essay in order to have a reliable result. Each person has a different taste and criteria when it comes to writing. So, it is important to have a rubrics to follow and other persons that will also give judgment to give good feedbacks to students' answers.